Hello, this is Trevor, and today we're working on another cross-site scripting vulnerability from Portswigger's Web Security Academy. This time, it is a DOM XSS in the jQuery selector sync using a hash change event. That's going to be important, I think. This lab contains a vulnerability in the home page, uses jQuery selector function to auto-scroll via the location.hash property, solve the lab, deliver a victim, calls the print function. All right, let's check it out. Please remember to like and subscribe, comment, let me know how I'm doing. Here we go. So we're on the home page. It said it's here. Let's check the JavaScript because it is a DOM-based XSS. Here we have our script. So window.onHashChange. So anytime the hash change, we'll go over that in just a second. It's going to call this function. It's going to set the variable post equal to this jQuery selector, and it's using CSS selectors here. It's going to concatenate the window location hash and then URI URL decode that. So that gets concatenated. If the post exists, it's going to scroll into view. So what's interesting here is that look at the jQuery version. It's 1-8-2, and we're using CSS selectors here to get that hash location. That's important. So older versions of jQuery have XSS vulnerabilities in the selector if we can put data into it. And we can because it is concatenating with these plus signs what we enter, and it's URL decoding that to concatenate it. So if we look up jQuery 1.8.2 XSS CSS selector, we can see that jQuery selector is vulnerable to XSS, to class selector and location hash selector XSS. If we find 1.8.2, we do see it here, and it's vulnerable with a CSS class selector. So that is a good indicator that's how we were going to exploit this. Let's go ahead and talk about what hash is, and we'll build a payload. So first, the hash. What this function is supposed to do is say, like, this title, this is an H2, right? Has the word interviews in it. If I copy, scroll to the top of the page, put a hash or a pound sign, and paste that, once I hit enter, you're going to see we scroll to that article. And if we do the same for this one, we scrolled to that one. We're at the bottom of the page here. If I select this one, scroll to the bottom of the page, and paste that, you can see that we scrolled all the way to the top. One thing to note is that this is on hash change. So we can't just hit refresh. Well, let's build out our payload. Because we're just concatenated, we can use our normal image source, leave the source blank, and then do on error equals alert, like that, right? Boom, we get our alert window. The hash change is important because if I hit enter here, notice we don't get our alert window. If I hit the refresh, once this comes up, again, you notice that we don't get the alert window. And that's because the hash did not change between those. So if I add a 1 here, we get it because the hash changed. Again, if I had add a 2 here, it changed. If I delete this and add a 2, it does not work. But again, delete this, add a 3, and it works again. So when we're delivering our payload, we need a way to change this hash on the victim. And yeah, so that's interesting. What we're going to do is we're going to use an iframe and then the onload function in the iframe. We're going to change this hash using that. We're going to deliver it using the exploit server. Let's open this up so we know how it works. And basically in the body here, our exploit is going to be iframe source equals, we need the URL of, actually, let's add in the hash here, and then we need onload equals double quote this dot source, so the source of the iframe, and then we're going to do plus equals, so we're going to concatenate onto the end of this, and we are going to concatenate within a single quote our payload, which is this. We're going to end the single quote. We're going to end the double quote, which is the ending of the onload function. We're going to end the iframe and close that off. That, I believe, is going to be our payload. That looks good to me. So in our script, we need to figure out a way to get the exploit version or exploit page. It looks like it just tacks on exploit here. I don't know how solid that is. And then we need to figure out what deliver exploit to victim does. Let me make sure burp is on. Let's copy, well, whatever. We can just deliver exploit to victim, because this is what we need to execute in order to make the things happen. Let's go to proxy, HTTP history. We want this post. You can see everything's URL encoded. So we have URL is HTTPS, response file, response head, response body, and form action. This is the part that we need to duplicate. And we can just fill this in and then hit post. We don't have a CSRF token here, so we don't have to worry about that. All we need to do, so we need to do two things. One, get the location of this exploit server. We should be able to right click and get it by finding the ID of exploit link, and then the value will be in the href. Once we have that, we are going to post to the home page of that link with this as our body. All right, sounds great. Let's do it. Let's see, we need a script. What are we going to name this? We are going to name this DOM jQuery selector hash change event. DOM jQuery selector hash change event .py. Whoops. We need to add in our Vim. Let's grab our template from the utils folder. I want to make a change to this though. Because we're not using shop right now, I want to change this to blog. Yeah. And then let's also add in blog equals blog args dot URL and args dot no proxy. We add this crap all the time anyway. We might as well just add it to the script here, or to the template. Let's save this and save this. First thing I said we needed to do was get the exploit URL. Oh, let's copy just so I don't freaking forget it, which is probably going to happen unless I actively take steps to prevent it. Let's copy our payload. All right, we need the exploit server, so we're gonna we're gonna get if args. Don't we have something in maybe utils? Normalize parse args. I need a. Maybe it's in site. Get hint, get response. Ah, okay. This is what I was looking for. I just need to call this. And let me show you why. So we can do blog.get response. And it requires the URL, that's it. We want blog.base URL. We're going to save this response. Let's print the response.text. Python DOM jQuery selector exchange event. Let's get our URL here. We don't need this anymore. Paste that there. Okay, we've got our whole thing. We are looking for link back, exploit link. This is what we want to get. So let's create this as a function within site. Let's make it at the end. Def get exploit link. Is it link or no? We want URL. That's more better. Self. And I don't think we need anything else. So we're gonna do response equals self dot get response of self.base URL, right? We're using self here because it is a function of the same class, and we're using self here because, again, this is an attribute of the same class, and that is defined right here. So we're getting that response. Now we want pattern equals re.compile. Good old re. We're going to do r single quote. Remember, we're looking for, do we want single quote? No, we want double quote. I'm looking over here and see all of them have a single quote. So I'm going to use double quote just so I don't have to whatever the word is. Not exploit. Anyway, ID equals single quote exploit link. That's going to be our start, how we know which line we want. ID has to be unique, so this should only trigger that line. We're going to do our dot asterisk question mark, and then we're going to end that on href equals single quote. This is what we're going to capture. So parentheses dot asterisk question mark, and end it at the single quote. We can add in that closing bracket just for funsies. All right, now we've got our pattern. We've got a response. Now we can do pattern dot search resp dot text, and we want to save this as M for match. Return M1. That will be our capture group. Remember that 0 is the full thing, 1 is our capture group. That should be everything we need to get the URL here. Let's write this and then we'll try it. So instead of this and this, we just need blog dot get exploit URL. Get exploit URL. We don't need to provide it with any parameters. Exploit URL equals, and let's print exploit URL to make sure that we have it and it's working. Boom, we have it. We don't have any logs. I don't like that. I'm sure you're all aware from now, by now. Log.info getting exploit URL. Let's log.info found exploit URL, and we'll do M1 and add in our F string. That looks good. Let's run this. Getting exploit URL found exploit URL. Perfect. We don't need this. So we've got our exploit URL. Now we need to build our post, right? Requests.post. This is going to submit or deliver our payload to the victim. We need to look at this. This is what we need in the body. We want if args dot no proxy. Do we want to say the response? I don't think we do. In the post, we need a URL. We need body equals body. No, it's data. Sorry, data equals data. I think that's it. So we need to find URL and data, and then if else, sorry. We're going to add in the proxies. Proxies equals utils dot proxies and verify equals false. Perfect. The URL is going to be our exploit URL. We can put that right in there because we are posting directly to that. If you notice here, we're posting directly to our exploit URL. Now we just need to build data. So data equals, it's going to be a dictionary, and we need the data from here. Remember how we've done a couple of cool things where we've built out a function in, I don't know if it's site, it's not in site, it's in blog for like post comment. This is, I want to do the same thing, but for this exploit. Because the exploit is not specific to the blog though, I want to keep it into, I want to put it in the site. So let's do a def what do we want to call this? Post exploit. Sounds fine. We need self. Let's get the URL ourselves. So exploit URL equals self.get exploit URL. Now we're going to move everything we have here. I'm going to delete that from here and add it here. Fix our index data. We're going to define that. Instead of args, no proxy, and do self. Exploit URL is fine. Data, proxies, all that looks good. So in our data field, back to this again, we need URL. Let's just copy this, paste that here, and we need a value. We'll define it to on. Let's add this here. URL is HTTPS equals, and we'll put on. So if we want to, we can override this, but the default will always be on, and URL is HTTPS. Okay. Response file, copy, paste, and we'll do the same thing here. Response, except we'll Python case it. I don't know the best order yet. Response file equals, and the value is / the %2f is the /. If I just hover over it, you can see exploit. So exploit. What's next? Response head. Response head. Add that up here. Response head equals, and we want all of this URL decoded. If I send to repeater, highlight this, Control-Shift-U, and then copy it. We're gonna put that here. It's important that we note that the whoops, dang it. It should have carriage returns, so we're gonna add those in. We need one here, so I'm gonna add a /n, content type, text XML, and then, so it's just 2 lines, it looks like to me. Let's double check this. 1, 2. It does have enter here, but that could be just, yeah, it is. So I added a space just so it's separated from the other one. You can see this is all 1 line, but these 2 are 2 lines. So we just need 1, and I don't know if /n will work or /r/n. Let's play it safe, and I don't know which one's safe. That was a dumb phrase to use. Response head, because I don't know which one's better. Let's delete our space. Let's put this all back with Control-U. Our next one is response body. This is where our payload's going to be. Response body. And then up here, I'm going to go to the end of the line. Response body equals default. I'm going to put hello world. That's what it is, default. And again, when we call this, we can override that. And then last is our form action, comma, form action equals, what did I copy? Copied the wrong thing for there. The right thing for there. And then the value we want for this one will be this deliver to victim. Let's go up there, there. Okay, that looks good to me. I'm gonna write it so that we get the formatting right. And write it again, make sure we don't have any errors. We've got all of this stuff we can override, and putting it here and then posting it. Do we want the response? I don't think we want the response. If you remember, nah, that's not necessary. Perfect. Let's go to our exploit and let's use that. So we no longer need that. We just need blog.post exploit. And we need to override, like I said, we were going to do. Let me close this for now. That was the body. This is the site. We want to override with response body. Response body equals, let's just call it payload so we can build it, and then blog.is solved. So all we need to do is build our payload equals, this is going to be this. So we got double quotes, single quotes. We're going to have to escape something. Let's escape the single quotes. So single quotes, we want basically this. Let's go to the end. And I put payload iframe right here. We need to delete this and put in our blog.base URL. We need to make sure we put an F here. Onload this source right here. We need to escape that single quote. Alert 3. Escape that single quote. Is that? No, that's good, right? Let me just, why is that on another line? There we go. So we're gonna F string, replace this. That looks good. We're gonna post it here. We're gonna alert 1. That looks good to me. Let's delete this now. Since we have it, we've got an error that request is imported but unused. Let's comment that out. Let's run our script. You know, we don't have any logs. We did not solve it in this post exploit. So right here, we're going to log.info posting exploit. I don't want to put any variables here because I don't know which of these will change. Log.info exploit posted. let's see what get. We want not want the get. Didn't we have a, oh, right here, post 302 found. This looks good. Let me send to repeater so we can compare this to the one we did manually. We have a lot of this other header stuff. We'll add if it becomes necessary. I don't see anything else wrong with this. So our /r/n, you can see it put those on 2 lines. We go back to the first one. Wait, is this it? This has only, we did something when we did this. Control U. This is supposed to have a one like that. I don't know what it was. Let's go to proxy. Post. This is the one we did. You can tell by the user agent. Post. This is the one it did. Oh, the percent. Yeah. %0D, %0A. That's the carriage return line feed. All right, no problem. Well, let's, maybe problem. Let's check ours. %0D, %0A. So we nailed it there. Again, you can tell it's ours because of the, that all looks good. What is the issue? Oh, duh. It's the print function. So let's update our thinger to do the print. And remove this. Looks good. Let's send it. Woo, look at that. Exploit posted, checking is solved, lab is solved. And if we refresh this page, boom, we solved it. All right, so that one was an interesting one. We had to do, well, we built out our script a little bit more, especially this site class. We added 2 new methods to it. Number 1 was get the exploit URL. We used regular expressions to extract the href from that URL so that we had the exploit URL. Then we added another method called post exploit. We built this in a way that I think is really cool, that we defined everything, so everything had a default. That way, if we need to send this, we can override, like, let's say the exploit is just in the header. We can just provide this parameter, send it, and it should work the same, which I really like, obviously, because I keep saying it. And then, boom, we created our payload. Our payload was interesting because of the hash change function. We had to, one, load it with a hash, right? Once it was loaded, which this would trigger the onload event. Then we modified the source to add in our cross-site scripting payload. When we added this in, it would trigger the on-change or hash change event, which then exploited caused our cross-site scripting code to get executed. We delivered that, and then it was checked if it was solved. So simple script, but a lot of stuff going on in this one. Hope you liked it. Definitely let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much. Goodbye.